Everybody gets discouraged. I get discouraged. We all get discouraged. I don't care who you are. Everybody at some time in their life will experience discouragement. There's a story in the Bible of David before he became king, where he was leading about 400 men, 450 men, and an enemy had come in while they were away from their town and taken all their children and their wives. And it says in the Bible that the men that David was leading were really upset and blaming him. Let me read you one verse from that. 1 Samuel 30, verse 6. David was in great distress because the people spoke of stoning him, for all the people were embittered, each one because of his sons and daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord. How do we encourage ourselves in the Lord when we feel discouraged? One thing that has been immensely helpful to me is to keep a record, or if you haven't done it, write a record of all the ways that God has demonstrated his activity in your life. Here are some of my life highlights. When I was single, I desperately wanted to be married. All my friends were getting married, and I took a walk with the Lord, and I was really in emotional pain. And I surrendered to the Lord. I said, God, I surrender to you. I desperately want to be married, but I'm going to lay it before you. And I let go. But it was still painful. 1 month later, my future husband's brother-in-law had a dream. And in that dream, he saw my husband, my future husband, and I getting married. He shared that with my future husband, and he took that to the Lord and realized God was pointing out his future wife. So he began to pursue me. Later, when we had fallen in love and I knew that we were meant for each other, he shared the dream with me. And I have written that down on my list of God interventions because God pointed out to my husband his future wife, who was me. And that was a God intervention on our behalf. Another one, I was desperately praying for my mother who was about to have surgery, major surgery for cancer, removing parts of her body because of cancer. I was desperate, crying out, and God answered by first of all, healing her, but telling the doctor, be in the surgery room, check before you operate. The surgeon heard God tell him that. So he didn't operate. He did a laparoscopy and found there was nothing there but scar tissue. That's another big God intervention. A third one, my father was resistant to the Lord his whole life, and I was crying out for his salvation, and 2.5 weeks before he died, he accepted the Lord. These are ways that God intervenes. Some of them may not be as seemingly obvious, like a prophetic word that someone gives, or a dream that we have that we know is a God dream to give direction, or just a strong encouragement from the scripture that we know is a God word in season. Different things. So dreams, prophetic words, answered prayers, people who speak into our lives, doors that God opens that we know could only be opened by God. Write these things down. Keep them on a list. And when you get discouraged, look at them and begin meditating on what God has done. What it will do is it will soften your heart to God's kindness, his interest, his active fathering, and his care for you. And that discouragement will lose its power, and you will be able to once again know God is for me. No matter what's happening right now, God is for me. Let me pray for you. God, if this one's discouraged, I ask that you would remind them, like the Old Testament says, bring to their mind, to their remembrance, the ways that you have demonstrated your affection, your attention, and your kindness. Open their hearts to see your care for them. God bless you. He is for you and not against you.